Good morning, Ugly Mug marketing friends and followers. Welcome to another edition of Ugly Mug Marketing Coffee Chats, the live show where we drink coffee and chat about marketing, business, leadership, and everything in between. My name is Hannah Balliet, and I am the Director of Communications and Teaching here at Ugly Mug. And today I am joined by our digital marketing specialist, Meagan. Meagan has been on our team for coming up on 2 years now, and she works with a variety of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and medium-sized business owners as well to help them create strategies that actually produce the results that they're looking for, which is typically making more money in the bank. Ka-ching, y'all. And I thought, what better person to bring on today to talk to us about crafting messaging that really speaks to your audience, but more specifically, figuring out and defining who that audience is and developing customer avatars and personas. So without further ado, Meagan, welcome to Coffee Chats.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I know you've been on Coffee Chats before, so I don't want to keep asking the same questions over and over. So my new question for you today is, how did you get started in marketing?
Yeah, so I feel like I have a kind of weird route to marketing, but somewhere around my freshman or sophomore year of high school, I was watching TV and a Target commercial came on, and something with what they said gave me the epiphany that the Target circles are Target, like
Yeah.
a bullseye Target.
Yeah.
Oh, and so literally, I remember sitting on my couch that day and Googling like how people make decisions like that. And lo and behold, marketing, and that there was a whole science behind marketing. And so then I kind of got into marketing research. And with that, somehow I landed on getting a degree in economics because that would be the more technical side.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting degree for me to go into. But post grad school or post undergrad, ended up working with student life for a little while, and then I was like, man, I really do miss that excitement that I got when I thought about Target, and so I went to grad school, got my master's in marketing, and ended up at Ugly Mug in my hometown. And so yeah, I feel like I've loved marketing for a really long time and just really thinking about how they make decisions for the consumer. And so that's something that I feel like I get real nerdy about, even, in my day-to-day job. So
Yeah. I love that. It all started with Target. Would you look at that, y'all?
yeah, you know, all his
Started with
records.
Target and led to an MBA at the University of Alabama. Crazy, crazy. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your journey. I just feel like there are people who might be tuning in to some of this. I mean, oftentimes it's definitely an audience of entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who are side hustling, also marketers, but it can also be people, something I know you're really passionate about too is students. That probably comes from your student life and all that kind of campus engagement stuff from college. But I feel like there could be some of those folks here too that just genuinely are like, how do I land on this path? And it's so funny. Everyone's journey in our office has been so incredibly different to marketing. So I think it's just really refreshing to get that perspective. So again, thank you for sharing. But now just maybe on a more personal note, what is one thing that you're really looking forward to this year?
Yeah, so I feel like top of mind right now is in like 3 weeks from today, I will be getting on a flight and headed to Seattle, and then I'll be getting on a boat for 7 days to go to Alaska, and I'm stoked. I'm like really nervous because when I think vacation, I think beach, but instead we're going glaciers. And so I'm really
Water's
excited
going to be
about
a little
that.
colder.
Like all of my jackets are packed up. My coffee today is iced. Like I'm done with the cold weather in my mind, and now we're going back and we're like stepping in at full force. But I'm super excited. A bunch of my family is going. And so it should be a lot of fun, but we shall see.
I love that. I love that the whole family is going. I've never been to Alaska or done an Alaskan cruise, but I know I've told you this offline, but I've had a couple of friends who were stationed there in the Army and absolutely loved it, did the lumberjack thing. But then also another friend that they did an Alaskan cruise with their family this past year as well. And they were like most amazing vacation ever. So I don't know.
That's what I
I think
keep
you're gonna
hearing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
I think you're gonna have so much fun. But the real reason that everyone is here today is to learn more about customer avatars and personas and how this can really make or break your marketing strategy no matter where you're showing up, because we have to know who we're talking to, right, when we're crafting our messaging. So for those who might be watching live or who are catching the replay, let's start off with what is a customer avatar slash customer persona. Like, what is it? What does that mean? And then, I'm sure you'll get into this after the fact, but like, why is it important for us as business owners or marketers to have a customer avatar or persona before you really even dive into your marketing?
Yeah, so I think that, well, first, like you say, what is a buyer persona, customer avatar? There's so many different words for it, but it all means the same thing. It's drilling down and putting a name and a face to your ideal customer. It's giving them, a job, like making your customer, the person that you have in your head, a person that then when you go to market, you're talking to them. And so that's so important because you want the message that you're sending out to fit, the person that you're sending it to. And so I like to use the example of when you get a gift you don't like. And you're like, man, did this person know me at all? Like, where did they get the idea for this gift? Like, I know, I say all the time, I don't like red. I say all the time, I don't like this. And then they got me this. I don't understand. And so I think about that and then put that into when we're scrolling online and we see an ad, you're like, why in the world did I get delivered an ad about this? It's like I don't do any of that. And so you're like, okay, something Facebook thought I might be interested in that. And so it's just if you're just throwing your marketing out into the wind, then the people that see your advertisements are gonna feel like you threw your marketing out into the wind instead of sitting down, learning who your customer is, and talking directly to them. Because the thing is, when you talk to your customers in a conversation, people talk back, and that's what you want. That's your goal, is that you want them to take an action after you deliver something to them. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that happens too when we're just trying to speak so broadly to people, or maybe we're talking to the wrong person, is they ignore it too, right? They're like,
Mhm,
they see
mhm,
it and they're like, especially in social media, they see it and then they're scrolling and they're like, that's not for me. Why? I'm
mhm,
not even going to pay attention to that, right? And so
mhm,
we're essentially like wasting money too, it sounds like, in some way, shape, or form, when we don't know who that person is, we're not talking to the right person, we're not delivering our messaging or our ads to the right people. We could just be
mhm.
wasting money on on impressions or reaching or
Yeah.
even link clicks or whatever metric, could be wasting marketing dollars on folks that
Mhm.
shouldn't even be in our target audience. Okay, interesting. Yes, and I feel like this is so overlooked too for a lot of businesses. They're just like, here's who we are, here's what here's our product or service, here's why we think it's so great. But they miss that conversation. That's so
Mhm.
key. Yes, we want to show up in people's feeds and make them feel like we're still just continuing. This is another extension of the conversation that you have when you come in and dine with us, or you come and shop with us, or you visit our our website, or whatever it may be. Um, so you've already talked about why it's important, but what are some of the components of a customer avatar? You touched on this slightly, of giving them a name and their job. Like, what makes up this customer avatar that we're building out?
Yeah, so again, you're making them an entire person. So we're talking about demographics, what's their age, their gender, their income, their religion, socioeconomic class, all of that. And then we go into things like psychographics. So how do they think? What are their behaviors? What's going on in their day-to-day life that makes them them? And then you dive a little deeper and you think about, like, where do they consume their media? One thing you said when you were talking a few seconds ago was wasting money on ad spend. And so I think about, if you're, a clothing brand who does like trendy, like stay on trend clothing, you're probably going to be marketing to people between the ages of 16 and 24, but you decide that you want to do radio ads. 16 to 24-year-olds are not on the radio. They have their Spotify, Apple Music, podcasts. Like that's what that age group is in. And they're on TikTok. And so that's where you should be. But if you don't know your customer, then you're going to waste your money on a radio ad. And so thinking about, I think that one is so, so important. And sometimes we leave that out when we're looking at, it's like, oh, we have a person, but we don't think about where they consume information. Because even 16 to 24-year-olds are different. So if you automatically assume that your target market is on TikTok, but actually, you sell books, and maybe those people are consuming their media elsewhere, but you didn't take the time to think about that. Again, you're, making an assumption and you're not really looking at who your, person really is. And so it's about touching every little piece. And then also like how they buy. Do they like a deal or do they look more so, quality equals more money. They have a little more purchasing power in that way. Just knowing your customer in every single one of those factors. So.
Yeah. You don't want to be selling a product that you're trying to at a high price point when it's really for someone who maybe doesn't have the disposable income to even make that purchase, or who doesn't have as much purchasing power in the first place to be making that kind of decision. Yeah, that's so fascinating. And I think that really speaks to why it's so important to start with this customer avatar, this buying persona, because you were just talking about something outside of crafting messaging. It's where to show up for these people. Yeah, we don't want to be on TikTok if these people aren't on TikTok. That's wasting our money. Gosh, that is such a good point. That's like a whole other like added value component of crafting and designing this avatar. This avatar, like Meagan said, is just this person. We name them. I love to tell this example. And sorry if you've watched a previous coffee chat where I've talked about it before, but when I got my first job in high school, I worked at Old Navy. Y'all, I was folding all those jeans in that denim wall. I was out here getting people to sign up for the Old Navy credit card, which a little regret now that I fully understand what that means later in life now. But anyways, part of our training when we worked at Old Navy was they talked to us about Jenny, Mike, and the kids. And they said, Jenny is a busy mom. She is about 35 years old. She has anywhere from 2 to 3 kids. She comes into Old Navy for back to school shopping, for quick family photo finds. She loves to shop and find a good deal, but she occasionally, like, they knew everything. Or they had thought through everything about who Jenny was. And I loved that they gave her a name too, because that just helps it feel more real. It's like when you're thinking about creating an ad, or when you're thinking about having a special or an offer for that week, or a sale on a certain product, they did all of that intentionally with Jenny in mind. And then they also had Mike. And they had this whole avatar and all of these demographics and details and things that they knew about Mike, because Mike was the person that they were after, right? And then they had all this like fun stuff about the kids, what they were interested in, what, the most popular show is on Disney right now, and they're selling those graphic tees. Like they had all this information about each of these different buckets. And another thing that I think is really important for us to talk about is you don't just have to have one avatar, right? So talk to us a little bit more about that, Meagan.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, that's such a great point, that you don't just have to have one, because humans are different. We're all different. And so you can't have an entire company and think you're only going to sell to one type of person. And so when you're thinking about, I think Old Navy was the perfect description of that, because they have women's, men's, and kids. And so knowing who each of your customer segments are, and honestly how they intersect, because I think Jenny would honestly probably shop for Mike and the kids, but then Mike, is he, he's the husband, but is he going to shop for the entire family? So how do you, put messages out to each of those segments? Because you might not send the family deal to Mike, but you'll send it to Jenny. And so just knowing each different persona has a different message in that they are different people. And when you give them names, you see that. If you were just like, oh, well, this is segment A and B, then it's not as much, the difference. But you know that Mike is a male, Jenny's a female, she's a mom, all of those things. And so it's just so, so important to hit on every different segment. And then I think something else to kind of talk about is how over time we change as people. So
Mhm.
your person may change as well. And so when you think about data and the information you can get, when you start your brand, you say, okay, this is who we want to target. This is, Jenny, we want to do that. But maybe in a year, you look at your sales, you look at the demographic data, and you say, it seems like we have a population of 20 somethings now and they don't have kids and they're coming in and looking for professional wear. Like that's a whole new segment that changes your merchandising and buying decisions. That changes everything. And so you, just like people are dynamic, you have to be dynamic, and you have to, once you have data, use it to construct these new buyer personas or change the ones you have, because again, people change, and so you should too. So yeah.
And that's such a good point. Some people might be watching this and they're like, "Hey, I've been in business for, I'm making this up, 5 years, and I don't have this customer avatar necessarily laid out. I think I know who it is, but you know what they do have is a lot of data. They
Mhm.
probably have addresses and zip codes and phone numbers and customer names even in their database, and they could go in and they could study who really are these people. Is it
Mhm.
majority male versus female? Do we need to have a male persona versus a female persona, or do we need to have both? Is it
Mhm.
someone who's just getting their career started in their 20s, or are we serving people who are very well established in life and maybe entering into a season of being empty nesters, right? They got kids, graduation season right now, maybe they got kids
Mhm.
going off to college right now. It's like, who really are these people? Is there a trend on where they live, where we typically ship to? Do we have a big following in certain cities if we're on e-commerce? Oh,
Mhm.
yes. So glad you brought that up, because yes, there's a million different ways that we could kind of dive into data and see what we already have in order to really identify this persona. But this is still, like, to your point as well, this is still for the person that their business hasn't even started yet. And they think they know who they need to be serving, and they have this idea of who they want to buy. Ultimately, another reason why this is so important too is because our products and services, ultimately, they do, I think, feel like one of, a few things for our customers. They solve a current problem that they have. They make
Mhm.
their lives easier or enhance their lives, or they fill in a need or a desire. It may even be something from Maslow's. I mean, for all of you who took psychology class at some point, you probably know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? These, basic needs, or the need or desire to fill it, want to fit in, or to feel
Mhm.
loved, or self-actualization, which is, I think, is at the very top of Maslow's need. But a lot of what we provide as businesses is to fill maybe one of those needs, right? So
Mhm.
again, we have to understand who these people are. Like, we need to
Mhm.
understand how our product or service really does provide a solution to the problem that they have. But we first need to know what the problem is in the first place, right? Or we
Mhm.
need to understand how their day-to-day lives feel hectic and chaotic, and maybe challenges or frustrations that they have on a day-to-day, so that we can help use our product to help make their lives easier or better. And then we maybe also need to know, gosh, what are their deepest desires as a human? Or, like, are they someone who's having a little bit of a midlife crisis situation, or,
Mhm.
they're struggling with that? And how can we help them or come alongside of them in that journey as well? That can
Yeah.
be another way that we get into the mind of the consumer. And those are other things that we need to consider, so that we can craft messaging that actually converts them into a paying customer, right? We want to enter into the conversation that's already taking place inside of their heads?
Mhm. And just to kind of, go back on your example with Old Navy and what people are going through and everything, knowing that Jenny is a busy mom and doesn't have time to go to, Oshkosh, Bagosh, and
Yeah.
just buy kids' clothes for family pictures and then run over to, I can't even think of just adult store, but,
And
to get,
Taylor Loft. Like I
yeah,
can't go to five different stores.
yeah, and then also she has to run to the men's and get her husband something, and it's like, no, like we can be a one-stop shop because we know that her pain point is going to all of these different stores. We know that something she struggles with is time because she has to run the kids all over the place. And so again, just to give that example of how knowing your customer and knowing your pain points, you can market to them directly and give that message. And like you say, like have that conversation with them. Are you struggling with time? You can, have your entire family in one trip, so yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes to all of that. I was even thinking about one of our clients, which I do want to ask you about a persona for one of your particular clients. So I guess you're thinking about that while giving this example. But one of our clients is Wildwood Pizza. They're located in Alexandria, Louisiana. We've been working with them for a long time. I think maybe since they've been in business, but we've been working with them for a very long time. Um, anyway, so at one point for Wildwood, when I was working on that account, we had this family pack that we were trying to promote. And it was like, you get 3 of their, 14-inch or however big they are pizzas. You got 2 side salads, and then you got like a gallon of sweet tea or lemonade or whatever.
Mhm.
And we were promoting this to families. And I remember when I was thinking about who is this really for and who is actually going to be calling and placing this order and like what are some of those struggles and pain points, I was like, this is really like something we need to be promoting heavy in like fall, spring when sports season is in full effect. This is for
Mhm.
the busy family. I think it's particularly for the mom.
Mhm.
Um, who is typically placing the to go order anyway. We knew that from data that we already had. So we're like, this is really for the busy mom. This is for someone who does not have time to cook dinner or, give her kids, like pack all the snacks, do all the things. Like something's got to get delegated, right? Like something needs to
Mhm.
be taken off her plate. Making dinner and doing dishes, let us take care of that. So because we knew that that was a pain point, she had to get so and so to soccer, so and so to gymnastics, picking up kids from school. She still's working on top of all of this. She doesn't have time to do all the things. So we were like, hey, here's the family pack. Let us do the cooking and let us take care of the dishes tonight.
Mhm.
All you have to do is place your order. Here's the price. Make it super easy. Pull up to the side door. We bring it to your car. You don't even have to get out. Like we were really speaking to that person. And I think even in one iteration of the copy, it was for, maybe even the stay at home mom who is sitting in, it was like, are you sitting in the carpool line and worried about what you're going to feed your kids for dinner in between all the activities tonight? Like we were that honed in because we knew that that meal package was for her. That was
Yeah.
for her and for her family. I don't think we ever gave her a name, but I'm like, that is how dialed in you need to be sometimes with
Mhm.
your target customer. And to speak to what we've already covered too, that was just one of our personas. Like that was a persona,
Yeah.
busy mom was one of our personas for
Mhm.
them. But then we also like had working professional, like who has disposable income that was coming in for lunch. Like there's these different
Yeah.
segments of, buyer personas for their entire service, which I feel like they're a restaurant, right? And it's so easy
Mhm.
to just be like, our restaurant is for everybody. Anybody can come in here and eat pizza. And
Yeah.
it's like, while that may be true,
Mhm.
the people that are going to come back again and again and again and again. And it's
Yeah.
the lunch crowd. If we really hone in on that person, there's a
Mhm.
different for the dinner crowd who's actually coming in and eating and dining in. But then there's
Mhm.
also that busy mom, right? Who's getting the to-go order and we're slinging the family pack too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just feel like for those of you watching and you're like, how does this really apply to me? How do I really craft that? You can even start by thinking about something specific that you offer and kind of
Yeah.
work backwards from that, because that's really ultimately what we did in order to identify that busy mom persona for
Mhm.
Wildwood, because
Yeah.
y'all, she needs help. Being a
I
mom,
think
I'm like, yeah, let me get that family tag. Let me.
I think a big thing there to kind of feed off of what you said is like what you offer and value. And so thinking about an offer for a family pack, and you said another of the personas was the busy, single man professional coming in for lunch. If the only offerings you ever had was for a family pack, how much value would he have? Would he
He's gonna
see like,
say this isn't for me.
I'm
Yeah.
just buying one pizza. I don't need a discount, and thinking about that, and so even thinking about how you need to add value and give offers to each of those different personas so that they all see the value of your company and know that it's different. We all go to a website, sign up 20% off your first order. Great, that applies to everybody. But as you say, like you get that customer lifetime value, you get the customers that come back. How do you keep them? 20% is just going to be like, oh, I got that the first time I signed up. That's not even special anymore. And so to continue to stay and add value, you have to know who you're talking to, because honestly, maybe you don't even need to give a discount to the person you're talking to. Maybe that's not where their value is found. But if you don't know that and you don't know who they are, then you're just giving discounts to anybody. So just wanted to add that to what you said. But
Yeah, I love that. So tell me how you are utilizing, or tell us an example of a buyer persona or customer avatar that you have in place for one of your clients.
yeah, so one that I was thinking about that I feel like is so specific. I'm working with a school district in South Louisiana, and we're honestly just giving them information about the school. We're talking about updates, giving a lot of engagement. We want them to know what's happening in the district and things like that. And so when we started working with them, I was like, okay, so who are we marketing to? Is it the students of the schools, who might be like seniors in high school, the people who are on social media, or are we talking to, who are we talking to? And so really, I think about we're talking to that mom that has a kid at elementary, junior high, and high school. And so that was my mom. It was four of us, and we were grade levels apart. And so, I'm sure that there were times if you had kids at three different schools, you needed one place to go to get as much information as you can. And so I use that example to say that I started thinking about my mom and like, what would she needed to know? How would I talk to her? And so I think that's another thing when you're building your persona is thinking about, like maybe someone that fits this description and talk to them. It makes it a little easier. Again, it makes them a full person. And so with that, I just started building on, okay, when we were all together, okay, she was working a lot. So how did we, how was her life made a little easier? What do I remember? Did I miss telling her stuff? So when she never knew when we had
The answer is yes, you did miss telling her things.
yeah, yeah. And so like something as simple as my mom never knew when we had finals. She was a busy mama, but like this school district has very specific testing days. And so it's like, let's go ahead and put out when each of these testing days are, and just giving the little details and thinking about what someone who needs that information in one place needs. And so that one was really fun. And, I take that as I'm doing the graphics. What would appeal to, a busy mom as she's, maybe in the car line, she has a few seconds. So she's on her Facebook, she's looking at her other friends, and then she sees an ad. Oh, finals are next week for my kids. Like, I need to keep that in mind. Or, oh, there's a virtual day, next month. Thank goodness they sent a save the date because my kid ruffles up their folder every before it even gets to my house. And so just thinking about the little details that, again, the pain points and the little things that may be missed that you can fill in the gaps for. So that's what I like to think about a lot.
I love that. And two great examples that we've given today, but in two very different like mindsets, worlds, industries, everything, like school district versus like local pizza place. I love that. So somewhere in between there or beyond there, you might be tuning in and your business falls into maybe one of those two categories as a fast casual restaurant or a school district or a nonprofit world, but you might be outside or inside of that too. And this
Mhm.
certainly can apply to you. So Meagan, tell us how to get started with a customer avatar. This may include some freebie or something that you have for us.
Yeah, so actually I printed it so y'all could see it. But we have at Ugly Mug a free customer avatar worksheet, and it really is, it takes you through every step of the process. It asks age, gender, are they married, how many kids do they have, what are their goals and values, challenges, pain points, what might stop them from buying from you, what might, what role do they play in your business? Are they the purchaser? What, all of those things. And then where do they get their information from? And so, yeah.
I love that. So we will drop a link where you can go and download this after today's episode, so that if you want to walk through this customer avatar exercise, do it. Not even if you want to, you should. You should do this. Even if you've been in business and established for a while, it will be pretty wild as you define or dive into data and figure out who those different buying personas or customer avatars, we use those interchangeably, but who those people are specifically. And really, like Meagan has said time and time again, getting into diving into those pain points and challenges, right? And figuring out what is it that they're having a hard time with so that your product or service can become the solution or something that can come alongside of them to make their lives easier, better, or to just, like I said, fill that desire, that need that they have as a part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Wonderful conversation today, Meagan. Thank you so much for all of your insights and wisdom around this. This truly, again, like I said at the beginning of this, knowing who this person is makes or breaks your marketing. Again, from a budgeting standpoint of am I wasting money spending time? Well, not even from budgeting, but from where do I need to be spending time, which leads into money. Like, should I be hanging out here? No, my people aren't there. I actually should be focusing on here. I will kind of end us on this note too of Wayne has always said to us time and time again, when you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody. Right. And that is what Meagan said at the beginning when she was talking about, oh, your message is just flying around out there in the world and maybe people are ignoring it or they're seeing it and they're thinking, that's not for me. It's like a terrible birthday gift, like she said. We don't want our brands or our businesses to be doing that. We don't want to show up that way for people that shouldn't even be our customers, or maybe people that could be our customers. We're giving them the wrong messaging. We really need to hone in and know this before we can ever determine where to be, how to write, how to craft messaging, or create anything else in our marketing strategy. It all starts here with your customer avatar. Meagan, thank you again for joining us. Y'all, I'm going to drop that link for that customer avatar worksheet. Like I said, do it. Spend a significant amount of time working on it. Print out a few different copies of it. Chicken scratch all over it. Think about who those different personas are. Next week, will we be back again here on Coffee Chat, same time, same place. TBD on guest and all of that. You will find that information next week on our Ugly Mug Marketing Facebook page. Thank you all for joining us, whether you watched live or catching the replay. We can't wait to see you again next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. Bye, y'all.